What's going on, everyone? Today is another day. It's another Friday, and we got our buddy Perry. We're gonna do the
Yo.
we're gonna do the thing. We're gonna do our talks and bring up topics and things that people do but don't realize that they're doing. And Perry's gonna give his definition, or rather his intro into what it is that we're gonna be talking about today.
Yeah, so the topic came up actually maybe a couple weeks ago. Not sure why it came up. I think someone sent me a video, or I saw something on Instagram or something like that. But it was like an example of like the 5 love languages. You know, so if you don't know what that is, the 5 love languages is basically how you, I guess, receive love. Everyone has like a preference whether they know it or not. And the 5 ones that they broke it down to are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. And so I just thought that it'd be really cool to talk about one, like, what are some of our like love languages as guys, and then like, you know, what are some things we notice about our wives, and maybe we can be completely wrong and not and think that their love language is this, but it's really something else. So I'm sure our wives will kind of let us know.
Yeah.
But you know, I definitely, for me, you know, there's like, you know, out of the 5, I don't think that I'm this, but then I think, like, how do I say this? So words of affirmation, like what I think that is like, you know, basically getting recognized and encouraged and motivated by saying, like, wow, great job, Perry, you know, like you're doing really good, or like, you know, like keep it up and stuff like that. And as much as I don't think I need that, I actually think that I am, like, I need that, you know? And I think the best example out of that was in my old job, my tech job, my supervisor, who I'm really tight with. And we're really, you know, just transparent with each other. She said to me, like, no, you need recognition. You need recognition. I was like, do I?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, you're always like, kind of like when you do a task or finish something, you're like, hey, you know, like, wow, I took care of all this, and you're kind of fishing for it. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's a love language that I guess I didn't know that I needed, you know. But you know, thinking about it now and everything that I do, I mean, although I'm pretty independent, I feel like I do, you know, I like when someone is there and going like, wow, very good job, you know, like you were doing like such a good job on this, keep going. And like sometimes you just need to hear that. And
Yeah.
maybe for me, like I need to hear it more than most, or like it just be nice, you know?
Yeah. Dude, I mean, why not? It's a human nature type of thing, right? I mean, like, you want to be acknowledged for the things that you're doing. And like, to be honest, I think I'm almost the same way, though I kind of keep quiet about it, right? Because I'm not gonna be one to kind of like, hey man, I did all this stuff, like, give me love, like show me like your appreciation, right?
Yeah, like you don't, like, I don't want to ask for it,
Right.
know?
You want
Right.
you want to be recognized and acknowledged for it without having to say or do too much.
I want you to
Exactly,
see me
right?
without me telling you to see me.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with that, you know. But I think a lot of it is also the way I was looking at it was like, it's almost like a combination, right? You kind of think about it, right? So you want words of affirmation, but also on top of that, like, great, you recognize, you acknowledge me and everything, but then you also think, all right, cool, you recognize me, what you gonna give me? Yeah.
Well, in a work setting, for sure, yeah.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, right? I mean, obviously with our wives and everything's gonna be a little different, but yeah, so with work, yeah, it's like, great, you recognize me, I'm going above and beyond, what's up, right? But I think to kind of draw that, you know, invisible line, God, it's definitely a good feeling when your significant other recognizes it. I mean, the thing is that sometimes they probably do recognize it, but they don't want to say it for more reasons, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, I'm laughing because I have an example in my head, and it's like, so like, okay, look, as parents, we have, you know, tasks at home that, you know, we are expected to do because we're parents. We're watching Little Humans and also trying to maintain a household and that stuff, right? But, and I'm laughing because like, I'll like do normal stuff like do the laundry, wash the dishes, clean up some clutter, vacuum, whatever it is. And some days I'm doing like a lot of that, and then Sophia will come home and she won't really say anything, like, and I'm just like, well, I guess you didn't notice, or like,
because kind of like it's funny that you mentioned that, because it's kind of like like when the girls, they go get their hair done or whatever, and they come back and you don't say anything, right? And they kind of want you to notice and acknowledge, right? And when you don't, and someone else does, it kind of puts you in the doghouse for a little bit, right? But it's almost the same thing. Trust me.
Yeah.
Anyway, too.
Yeah, man. Like, and it's like, but the thing is, like, if let's just say I get kind of like frustrated about it later on in the night, and I'll be like, yeah, like, I was super busy, being passive aggressive here, like taking care of the kids, vacuuming, doing like 3 loads of laundry, washing dishes, wash the car, and then she'll be like, oh, yeah, did you want me to pat you in the back or what? And then like, in her mind, it's just kind of like, these are given things, that like are supposed to happen. Like, why do you need like a fucking trophy or whatever like that? But I guess that's just how I am. Yeah, that's just how I am, and I hardly ever do that where like I'm asking for it. But it'd be nice if just be like, oh, thanks, like just a quick like, oh, thanks for doing that. And I try to be mindful when she does stuff. Like, so lately I've been really busy with work, and she's actually kind of had to take on the load of like, getting girls like shower, bath, bathe, and stuff like that. And I try to be like, when I know that I'm super busy and she's been handling all that for the past couple of days, I'll try to just say like, hey, thanks, babe, for like just kind of taking care of them. I've been slammed, and for me, that would be enough. If someone just said like, oh, thanks for doing that, like, sorry, I haven't had time to do it or something like that, I'd be cool with that. But
that could go down such a bad rabbit hole of so many different things and different tangents.
Oh yeah, so many times I've gotten like chewed out, like, what the fuck do you want from me? Like you want a damn parade for doing basic stuff, and I'm like, no, just a simple like food, something like that. Like,
I mean, like, I was just thinking about what you said earlier. Like, you had a busy day. You did, laundry, wash the cars, and everything. I can kind of think, depending on how your wife is, and same thing with my wife is like, depending on how they're feeling at that point in time, they'll be like, well, shoot, did you mop the floors? Did you like dust all the curtains? And you know what I mean? So
no, I was gonna get to it.
Exactly, like, it's on my list. I just had all these other things to take care of. They're like, okay, cool. When are you gonna get to it? It's like, so
right.
It kind of comes back full circle, right? This whole thing with appreciation is like, sometimes it's enough and it's great when they're having a good day, but when they're having a bad day, it's like, damn, it's never enough,
No.
But you can't. It's like a seesaw, right? And so it's so funny that you mentioned that, because like, whatever you just mentioned, to me, it felt like it was almost like a direct, like, like, holy crap, I go through the same kind of ebbs and flows.
Yeah, of course, man. I bet you everyone does, dude. All the guys
it's crazy, but it's so funny to kind of talk about it, because a lot of people don't talk about that kind of stuff. Because I don't know, for guys, you kind of think about it sometimes. It's like, nah, that's a little too deep, bro. I'm like, nah, man, just freaking talk about it. Like, it's all good. It's all fun, because you kind of take a look back at it, like, dang. I don't know. It's kind of.
I feel like now that since we're gonna be posting this, the internet is gonna be like, oh, poor baby Perry. Oh, like, did you put away these 2 chopsticks? Like, whoa, what a great job, And I'm like, man, F you guys, dude.
Pat on the back.
Yeah, right? Like, yeah, I put them in height order. Stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
I get it. It's you can't get away from it, right? There's always gonna be out there, but whatever. I really don't care,
Yeah, I know for sure that Sophia is not a words of affirmation type person. I know exactly which one she is on this, and then there's a couple ones that we kind of overlap, but words of affirmation is more my thing, and she's just like, hardworking, just gets the job done, doesn't care if anyone says like, like, good job, whatever like that. But I'm sure when I say like, thanks, babe, good job, on doing that, it can hurt, but maybe she doesn't like need it as much as I do.
Yeah, I mean, like just kind of going down the list, right? Like, think about it. If, for instance, instead of saying, words of affirmation for her, you just say all of a sudden, you know what, she's doing such a great job. Let me go out and go buy her a cake. Like, what I mean? Instead of saying it, like, hey, I'm giving you a gift. Like, this is all, we're celebrating. Like, but why? Why the hell not? You know what I mean? Like random stuff like that. So I think for me, yeah, definitely words of affirmation. But I, and I've actually been, like, throughout this whole pandemic, haven't really been doing this much, but like giving gifts. Like, I mean, obviously receiving is great too, but for the other side, it's definitely like a random thing, a spontaneous thing. You know what I mean?
No, I think that's a good segue into our next one. Receiving gifts is one of the words of love languages. And yeah, like I know, I get what you're saying. So I think for me, that would be an easy one to do, except that she is so picky. So the gifts that I think are nice and good, like I'll let's say I just go F it, like, like I like this for her, I'm gonna get it for her. Yeah. I'll buy it and she'll be like, oh, thanks. Put it down. And I'm like, really? Yeah. So I mean, we've been with each other for, like actually with each other since 2003. So we've been with each other for 18 years. And married for like 9 of them, right? And we're just like some old like fogey couple now, where it's just like, you know what? I'm not even gonna buy you any gifts because you don't appreciate them like how I felt when I bought it for you. So she just gets her own gifts now. And so for me, I don't. I would like, I wouldn't mind a gift, but again, I'm also kind of picky too with what I want. Yeah. And so I'm. So for me, receiving gifts, and I guess for her too, receiving gifts is kind of like on the low, bar for like love languages, which is great because it saves money. Yeah. Sure. But in your sense, like in your situation, like if like you or Luann like receiving gifts, like, I mean, I feel like that's an easy one to, like, if you know them, okay, like, yeah.
I mean, it's it's definitely I think it's a great point, where it'll probably save you a lot of stress and a lot of trauma, kind of trying to figure out, oh, this has got to be the perfect gift to give, blah blah blah, and funny thing, that this past Christmas I actually did the same thing too, where it's like, yeah, it's Christmas, but at the same time I was like, cool, dude, this gift I'm gonna give her is hella sentimental, like hella cool, whatever. She hasn't it's still in the box, man. Like, I'm like, man, I actually spent time and actually did all this stuff, but to your point, I'm like, okay, it's cool to receive gifts that you actually want and actually use, right? And your point, like, why get gifts for a person where you put thought into, and it's not necessarily what they want. I mean, it's great to have, and it's great to receive, but it's not necessarily what they want. So I think that approach is probably what we normally do as well. Like, we get ourselves our gifts because we know that whatever we get ourselves are things that we'll definitely use, right? So, but the thought of it is there, but the actual practice is definitely going to be different for sure, right? There's no doubt.
You 100% agree with you on that, and that's okay. Like we both have an understanding of that, so it's all good, Like Sophia hates flowers, and here's the reason why. Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, whatever it is, like, she hates getting flowers because she goes, it's like a waste of money. Like, they eventually like die, And I was like, I understand, but I want to give you like a nice bouquet because you deserve it, and it's like, for your birthday or Mother's Day and stuff like that. But she'll be like, no, don't waste your money, And I'm like, okay, fair enough. So she's, the path to her heart leads through sweets most of the time, and so. But I can only get Sherry's berries so many times. It gets costly. But anyways, I guess it sounds like we're both in agreement that, like, us and our wives receiving gifts, we kind of just like leave it up to each other to just like do our own thing, and I think that's okay, because if one side expects like their love language is receiving gifts and they're not getting that, then then it's gonna probably cause a rift.
Yeah,
right?
you can think about it, right? Because I mean, you think about it, right? Like even if, like, say for Sophia, right? You like, you know what she wants. You get the thing that she wants, but it's the wrong color, or it doesn't have all the specs that she wants, but it's still the thing that she wants. It's like, okay, you feel great about getting it, but you also feel frustration at the same time because, like, damn, I didn't know she wanted all these other specifics, right? And so,
yes,
you know what I mean? And that's the thing, right?
Totally.
You can't read each other's minds, right?
No.
Like, you see in TV shows and everything where it's like, oh yeah, the mother, the wife gets the husband the gift that he's been wanting, full spec, everything that he's wanted, and like, well, that's great. I mean, you can't use it as a gauge for your own life because it's never going to be like that, and so that's the thing. You kind of, I think that's part of where people kind of falter, right? Where they kind of mix whatever is happening in media, which is essentially Hollywood depicting a very perfect life, and I guess gift giving or whatever. And when it comes to reality, it's like, holy crap, that wasn't what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't, and that's okay. If that's the understanding that we have with each other, that's completely fine. But to go back to your point about we buy them a gift and it's not to their specifics, man, so true. Like, because Sophia's into Tokidoki, right? And I remember, man, one year or a couple of years, I bought her some Tokidoki, like either clothes or like luggage. Yeah. And the first thing, there's the prints all over the luggage, right? She was so she was so surprised, and she was like, "Oh wow, this is one of the few times where like she actually liked it." Yeah. Even though she never told me that she wanted the luggage. Yeah. And then first thing she does is she looks around the luggage. She goes, "Oh, this print's a little off though. This print's not in the place. It would be worth more if it was like this." I was like, "Whoa, I didn't know that," And like I was like, "God damn it! Like you're so picky, like." Yeah. And I was like, "Do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy it?" Yeah, and she's like, "Yeah."
Do you have a gift receipt though?
It's like, I'm sure. Like, I wonder if I can exchange it for a different print pattern. Yeah. I want to see. I'm like, do what you want with it. Yeah. Right.
Do you?
And here's an even funnier one right now. So this is my bad. So she's been doing her beauty counter thing, and she's been doing like these Facebook Live events, and I noticed that she doesn't have like a ring light or anything like that. And so I bought her the very same ring light stand that I'm using right now to record. Yeah. And I was like, oh, like you said, oh, this is thoughtful because like I'm trying to support your business, and I thought this would help. And she goes, oh yeah, but it's just not like I can't see myself using it and the setup and everything like that. I was like, no, it's easy, baby. I'll show you. And so she's never used it once. So I've been using it. So it's kind of like one of those things again, like fail.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's been so.
It's the whole Homer Simpson buying Marge a bowling ball with Homer's name on it. It's like, here's a gift for you. Yeah. But it's really for me.
Yeah, because I know you're probably not going to use it, right?
Yeah. So
man, it's so funny. I remember at one point, I forget what it was. I bought maybe a purse or something like that for Lemme with a charm, and she's like, "Oh, it's so cool! I've always wanted one." I'm like, "Man, you say it like that, there's always going to be a but, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, but it's a little bit too big, and this charm doesn't work. It doesn't match." I'm like, "What the? Like, what do you? So it's like, yeah. I don't think that's something that we can ever win, to be honest with you. Like, no. It's just, we just accept that, hey, we're being thoughtful and thinking about it, but we pull ourselves back because there's no way that we're going to win this kind of situation. And to be honest, to be fair, I think if they were to buy us something, it'll probably be almost the same thing too. But I think, depending on the individual, their facial and their like how true and honest they are when they receive that gift is going to be a little different. Because I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's cool. But like, I'll wait like a week later, right? I'm like, so you got a gift receipt, or can we go see if they have any other options? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But maybe the same way. You're right.
Yeah. It's going to be the same thing. So I think it's good to acknowledge and recognize that, hey, it goes both ways. It's not just a one-way thing, right?
Yeah. And like I said, it seems like we're all on the same boat about this, so it's okay, you know. Like and they prefer like that, and so do we, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
But the one thing that I do want to caution, and this is kind of certain things that I think about every so often, you know, but don't compare the way that you are with your wife or significant other to other people. That's gonna mess you up so bad.
Oh no, you want a death sentence?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Don't ever do that, because I'm not gonna get into that. That's just bad news.
Yeah.
Don't.
Well, she makes her husband breakfast.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're asking for like the death stare, and you know what that means.
Yeah.
That's like just like
exactly, or like a side eye.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
am I not enough?
Yeah.
I
yeah,
keep
like the
kids.
Yeah, and listen to us veterans here. Don't do that. Like for sure not.
Yeah, dog pound right there for sure.
Yeah, I think. All right, let's go move on. The third one, I think this is me for sure. Acts of service. So, I naturally feel like I like to help people. Just that's in my nature, and so, and I also like I really do appreciate it when people help me out or do something. Just like, you know, with like they didn't have to do it, but they did. Like let's just say like I don't know what's a good example. Like, hey, like, you know, like I don't know much about cars, so if something goes on my car, I'll reach out to like the fellas and be like, hey, like you guys know anything about like, you know, why my car is doing this, whatever like that. Everyone puts their input into it, and then like one or two people will be like, hey man, just bring your car over, you know, like we'll go check it out, and then we'll help you out. To me, I'm very much appreciative of that. I consider that like an act of service, because like, oh, you didn't have to, man. And I normally explain it after, like, oh, you didn't have to do that. That's like really going out of your way, but that's just a show of like how much I appreciate you. So when our wives, you know, like do something like that, like particularly me, if I notice that she does something where like I've been thinking about doing it, or like she just kind of took the initiative to do it because she knows that like that's something I wanted to get done or something like that, I'm very much appreciative of that.
No, for sure.
Yeah, and I let her know too, you know, like, hey, like, oh, you didn't have to do that, but yeah, thanks for doing that. Like, it's just like so I really that resonates with me pretty strongly.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of you know, and you know, obviously speaking just really transparently and everything, I do appreciate that, but I think in the back of my mind there's always going to be with my wife, obviously it's going to be different, but I don't want to burden, right? As much as others are like, you know, very you know, helpful and everything, I always feel that like there's a certain aspect of burdening people that, you know, where I'm just like, okay, well, I don't want to have to take time away from you and you know, your family or anything like that, you know. And that's just, you know, I'm not saying that I'm not appreciative, but it's just I'm always kind of hesitant about that kind of stuff. So it's hard for me to ask for help, to be honest. And that kind of leads to a lot of things, you know, like both professionally and personally, which to me, I think it's definitely something that I need to work on. You know, but I think on the flip side, I know that at least for, you know, the guys and just our group of friends and everything, they're always willing to help, and which is such a great thing. You know, it's just something that I need to, at least for me, come to terms with, right? But when it comes to my wife and everything, yeah, it's a lot easier, because I mean, obviously that's why, you know, you get married to your best friend and your partner and everything, right? You have to support each other and make sure that you take care of each other and stuff like that.
Yeah, and for me too, like I like to do stuff, you know, for like to help out when I can, right? Emphasis on the when I can, because I've been like really busy lately, but when I'm available, I definitely like to help out in any way, shape, or form. So sometimes I'll reach out to Sophia. I'm like, hey, can I have a free day? Like, I was planning to go to like Costco or something like that. Like, I noticed that we're like low on like breakfast stuff. Did you want something specifically? And you know, as minute as that is, it's just like grocery shopping. Like, you know, hopefully she sees it as like, oh, you know, like he's being considerate of me, like, and wanting what I want. And and honestly, half the time I'm like, I text her, and then by the time I get it back, like I'm already leaving the place, so it doesn't happen.
Yeah, but then the thing is, though, deep down you're probably like, okay, well, I mean, it's simple. I'm not too far away. Let me just go back and make another trip, right? Or something like that, depending. You know, I mean, I think I'm the same way. Like you know, in a lot of the soul searching that I have been doing just recently and everything, I kind of came to I wouldn't call it a true conclusion, but I mean, to your point, in the first point that you made, where you mentioned that you really like to help people, and that's kind of the around the realm of what I kind of came to a conclusion of, right? And I mean, shoot, you give me a call, I'm there if I can, like you said, right? When if you can. I'm there. I'm more than happy to help anyone out, a friend in need or anything like that, you know, because, you know, in all honesty, if you're doing it with the mindset of I'm not expecting anything in return and I'm doing it genuinely because I truly just want to help you out, I think that means so much more than, you know, like, hey, getting a affirmation and what am I going to get back in return, right? You can't have that kind of mindset when
no, not at all.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of I would think that can really lead to toxic behavior if you really kind of want to go that far. But yeah, no, I'm totally down to help anyone in need, you know, when and if I can.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, anyone, like you said, anyone in our group is kind of like that, you know, like I know, and I value that a lot because like that acts of service goes hand in hand with like loyalty to me, right? Like you're stepping out of your way to help me out with something or vice versa. Like, you know, like it's a reflection of loyalty. Like you're willing to do that for me for no reason. You know, and to me, like, I remember those events the most, and the people that helped me the most, even as something as minute as like picking something up or whatever, or like really big ones where like, oh, I'm like stranded, I need a ride or something like that, right? But I remember that, and I always like to reciprocate just to, you know, I like maybe like years down the line, it's like something, they need something, dude, I'm fucking there, you know?
Not question.
Yeah, but not because like, oh yeah, now we're even and then I'm not going to help you anymore, but more like you were there for me, I'll be there for you, you know? And that's kind of like the back and forth.
Yeah, it's such a toxic thing when you start keeping track and keeping tallies, you know? It's such a horrible thing to kind of go through because you're always going to feel indebted to other people. And at whatever chance they get or you get, you're always like, okay, I'm doing this just because you helped me out, like, I don't know how many years ago or whatever, and stuff like that, right? It's there's this one quote that I always listen to. It's like, the debtor is always slave to the lender, or something like that, where it's like, it's just like kind of like taking a loan, right? Where you, like, for instance, if I were to borrow money from you, I'm always going to be in debt to you, right? Regardless of if I pay you off or whatever, it's always going to be, okay, what can I do to kind of even the playing field, right? And you can't do that. You got to do it from the genuine, like, you know, like nature of yourself and your heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do because you want to do it, not expecting anything in return, and just leave it at that, and like just be happy that you did it. So that's how I feel too when I help people out. It's like, I don't expect anything in return, you know, I'm doing you a favor or whatever it is. Like, I just, if I can, I'll help. If you can help, you know, and that's kind of like how I guess, suppose I was raised. And I see a lot of like that from my dad. He seems to, and it's a blessing and a curse, because the blessing part of it is like, he helps out in his, you know, group of friends and family and community all the time. But the curse part of it is that sometimes he gives a little too much of himself to everyone, where he doesn't have enough for himself. And I've found myself to do that a lot, actually, where I give too much of myself away to everyone else, and not only not enough for me, but not enough for my family or my spouse. And so that's something I have to be mindful about. And that's why now I say, like, when I'm available, right? Like, so I got to put as selfish as it sounds, I got to put me and my family first within reason. But they're all taken care of, it's all good, then yeah, for sure, man. You know, like, why not?
I think that's such a great thing to acknowledge within yourself, right? Because that effectively leads to spreading yourself too thin and all these other things that come along with that, like stress and just taking things out on your kids and family and whatever like that, you know. But the quality time that you have for yourself and your family, man, it's such an important thing, right? Like it's just like, for instance, like when you're on an airplane, right, and you know the air pressure drops, you know the oxygen mask, you know, starts dropping down. It's like, well, take care of yourself first, because if you can't help yourself, you can't help others, right? And so that kind of really falls in line with, you know, the service and everything like that, right? Because if you're not cool at home, then you're not cool. You're not going to be cool outside, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's like a great segue to just the quality time love language, right? Whereas, like, you know, oftentimes we lose sight of the really simple things in life, and the simple things that are like near and dear to us, like where we live and where we like kind of go around, and that's your family. That's you and your family, right? And I think for me, spending quality time is so much more important than, like, say, having like tangible things, right? Because these are the intangibles that you can never replace once the time passes, right? Because, and I think me and Lauren, we both agree. I mean, yeah, it would be great to have things, but dude, since our kids are growing so fast and they're like dude, it's been almost a year and a half ever since the pandemic started, and that's like, we just feel that even though we were together, it really wasn't quality time spent, just because they were in their work at school, we were doing our work, and just all the stresses that come with it. And so I think, you know, quality time kind of means, hey, take time out. Don't be in the same environment that you're in. Take them out somewhere for like a day, for a weekend, whatever, so that you can kind of regroup and just be together. And when I say that, I'm talking about, dude, no screens, like no iPads, no phones or anything. Just kind of, you know, be there together and just interact and just be a unit, you know. It's extremely important these days.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. I mean, we got families, you know. Like I do agree that there are levels to this, though. You know, there's different levels, and like, here's what I see quality time. I think that's definitely a big one for both me and Sophia. But here's the levels, and hear me out. There's quality time with your family as a whole, very important, you just described. But there's also quality time with just you and your spouse, and then there's quality time for ourselves. And it starts actually the reverse, where you start with yourself, then goes to your spouse, and then the family. I guess that second to third part can be, you know, arranged differently, but it goes back to what you're saying about like the whole like mask thing on the airplane. Like, it's the ripple effect. You can't optimally, and in this case, maybe optimizing your emotions for anyone else if you haven't done so for yourself.
Yes.
You know, so like the cup half full or type of analogy is like, if your cup isn't full, then, and it's like at half, and then you try to spend quality time with your spouse and their cup is half full, well, it's hard to fill up each other's cups when your cup isn't full to do so.
Right. And
it trickles it down to your family. And so I'm a big advocate of making time for yourself during the day, during the week, whatever it is, if it's for 30 minutes or an hour, whatever it is, making time for yourself so that you can, you know, be alleviated of whatever personal anxiety or stress that you're dealing with. And then when you make time for you and your spouse, then you can share these things and actually have more of a logical, more reasonable, more open and clear-headed, that's when you're speaking with them. And then you can actually talk about, you know, you're in a better mood to encourage each other. And then when you have the family time, then it's all about like, to go to what you're saying, is about being in the present. You know, those things that you describe, like the screen time and whatever it is, those are distractions.
Yes.
And so quality time to me is being in the present, whether it's the present for yourself, for you and your spouse on a date night, for you, your spouse, and your family. It's about being in the present. And that's something that most families, I have to say, are so engulfed and busy about maintaining the household that we forget about the quality time and about being in the present.
Oh, yeah.
And I that's something you said, like you said, invaluable, right? Like it's it's priceless, but you have to, I think it's best served when taken in those steps in that order, but easier said than done.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I'll be completely honest with you. So
I hope so.
I mean, I
just fucking with you.
but no, yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of done it in such a way that it's kind of out of order. But I mean, obviously, with time and everything, that's the only thing that we can do, right? And so obviously, that, we do spend that time within our own family, like, all four of us, right? But I think the one thing that is lacking, at least during this whole pandemic, is that we have not had time to take to ourselves. But then, also on top of that, just myself and we haven't had a chance to just us two kind of go and decompress and just be us two. The only time, to be honest, was that wedding that we just went to. That was the only time.
Damn, that was the only time?
That's the only time that we actually had, because there wasn't really very much else, having people come in to kind of watch the girls or whatever, right? It was very, very few. Maybe it happened like once or maybe twice, but other than that, that was about it. And so I think quality time, that's something that we need to work on. That's something that hopefully going forward is something that we can plan out a lot more, right? Without having to sacrifice too much, you know what I mean? And I realize that now that we're talking about it, that could be the piece that is missing, at least in our marriage right now, right? It was fine before because we had, we can drop the kids off or whatever and wouldn't be so scared. But now there's always going to be that fear component. But yeah, that realization right now is like, okay, it makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very important. And I think most families, most couples struggle with this. The most out of the 5 love languages, quality time is something too far in between and scarce, and so, but it just takes one person in the midst of the chaos that we call our lives to just stop and be like, no, we need some time together, let's try to make it happen, and take the initiative on that. Like Sophia is so big about, you talk about not trying to burden people thing. She's really big on that, to an extent where she really doesn't want to even ask our parents to watch the girls so we can have a date night or something like that. Yeah. And I'm the polar opposite, where not saying that oh, just dump them whatever you want so we can just go do our thing, but I'm more so the one that takes initiative and goes, what, let's go out this weekend or this night, and I'll make the arrangements to get coverage or whatever like that, because to me it's very important. Like you said, the missing piece now for you guys, and it's good to recognize that, so that's something that you can work on and give yourself that love language with each other. It's very important, and that's something also Sophie and I are missing. That we've gone out I guess a good amount of times. We've been lucky to live with my in-laws, and also with my parents being fully vaccinated. We can bring the girls over and they can have a sleepover or whatever. Although we haven't taken advantage of that as of recently. But I for sure I always think about man, we haven't had enough time together. Recently, 2 weeks ago, I was she's been busy with her main job and her side hustle. I've been busy with real estate, and I just stopped her while we're at home, because once we get home it's another set of work with the kids and everything. Right? Yep. And I just stopped her and I was like, hey, you know what, we haven't had time to actually catch up with each other and go out or do anything. We should do that. She's like, yeah, we should. And so, and it still hasn't been planned yet.
Of course.
But we're
acknowledging that, right? That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good to acknowledge, and I think it's a very, very, very common thing with most families and most couples. And so it's important that I'm very confident to even say generally, everyone, probably quality time is a love language that everyone speaks. It's just whether, but everyone can speak it. It's just whether or not it takes one person to open up their mouth to say that, like, we need it, you know, because we're so busy in our lives that it very easily gets pushed to the side. And that's one thing that I noticed that parents, especially new parents, have a hard time with dealing with sacrificing, you know, the quality time they have before with just each other, and now they're having to like maintain a family and then also be, you know, working parents and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, the common thing that always seems to pop up in my mind right now is that we always seem to put it off, right? Oh, tomorrow or next week or the following week or whatever, and then by the time that we actually, you know, get to a point of, okay, this is going to happen, this is when it's going to happen, and all that kind of stuff, dude, it could be a month, 2 months, 3 months, or whatever. And dude, by that time, it's like, okay, so you either do it or you don't. And oftentimes people just don't. They just kind of, that's why, like, this whole thing with, like, you know, before, like in college and just beginning, like obviously before kids and everything, like this whole notion, right? And you kind of get asked this as well, like, oh, hey, how are you in a relationship? You know, I'm like, oh, you know, I go with the flow. I'm like, as you get older and everything, you got to stop going with the flow and actually just take action. Because at this point in time, going with the flow, shoot, by the time you are ready to actually take action, you probably be in like your 50s. By then it's already, I want to say it's too late, but damn, you wasted all that time going with the flow when you could have easily taken action, you know, to help better your relationship with your wife or significant other or your kids or whatever, you know. And so I think I'm gonna take that. I think that's a very good thing to acknowledge and start planning for, because if you don't, man, you're just gonna drift away and just not have any back.
Yeah. I mean, as present as you guys both are with the kids around, that's the quality time with the family. Oh, yeah. But you know, it's a separate like quality time when you have it with each other. And you know, if the quality time with the family is full, but the quality time with each other is very low, that's a problem. You know? Yeah, and it's just gonna. I'm speaking from experience. It's just gonna get worse as far as creating distance. And so that's something that someone's got to be the grown up, take the initiative, and just like, F it. When you free next? All right, I'm gonna drop the girls off over here. We're gonna go. Let's go figure out. Something simple. Let's go grab some dinner. Maybe grab some dessert, and just kind of walk around, or like go here, and you know what? It doesn't have to be much, right? But it's so very important that we have to keep these quality of time cups, you know, like full, or at least equivalent.
Yeah,
right?
It's like I remember, I forget where it was, but it's like you have your cups, right, for different things, right? You don't start giving away your I forget what it was, but it's essentially you have a full cup. You give your happiness, you give your time, you give just like your quality time or whatever, not from your cup, but from what's overflowing, right? And so when things are overflowing, it's like, okay, cool, I can start distributing a lot more of this. And you know, it's kind of like a waterfall, right? It'll continue to come and everything, as long as you keep on giving at your like more than 100%, like just the overflow when you are ready to. But if you start giving, it's like trying to force things when you're like half full, like your mental state, your happiness, then you're only gonna be half happy. And then in turn, the other person receiving it is they're only gonna get half of you. They only get, you know. No, I 100% understand, man. I was there. You know, I was there. I can safely say, you know, and I'm not bragging here, but I can safely say that like my cup is pretty full right now on a personal level. And only because of that I'm able to go ahead and fill the other cups of my spouse and my family and whatever it is, my job, to the best of my ability, because I've prioritized my personal time, my cup first. And I think we all need to be that selfish, you know? Sorry, someone called me. But we have to be selfish for ourselves, like selfish for our own sake. Otherwise, like everyone's gonna get like the half version of us, you know. And
Who wants to do that? No one wants to do that.
I'm
Right?
glad you got that, because I was doing such a horrible job at explaining it, but it's so true, because the more we start talking about this, the more I'm starting to realize, okay, there's certain things that I need to adjust. Obviously, certain things that we need to adjust within our household and everything. And it's such a crazy thing that it's just kind of like, it's almost like an epiphany as we talk about it, you know what I mean?
And that's even like, that's the whole point of us talking, man. Like,
Exactly.
to share these things with each other, where it's like, oh, I didn't think about it that way, you know, or whatever. Like, I mean, if we can, in turn, by just talking to each other over Zoom, better each other's vibes that way.
Dude,
I mean,
it's all worth it, man. Come on,
yeah,
man.
hell yeah, dude. Like, why not, man? Like, I mean, dude, we're all here to help each other out. No one's perfect. We all know that. Nothing's like, you know, like solid, you know. So it's just us doing our thing, you know, and that's completely okay. And I'm really glad, actually. And you know, it's particularly like marriage and having a family is probably that's the hardest things that we'll probably ever have to do. So shouldn't we invest a good amount of our energy into making sure that it goes well, you know, right?
100%.
Instead of neglecting parts of it. And so if that takes you or Luann or someone just to be like, hey, I see something's going on, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna spearhead this and take the initiative to do this.
Right. I mean, and you know, it's funny that we kind of reached this juncture, because this also kind of leads to the last and final love language, which is physical touch, right? Because that the missing piece, like I mentioned before, it doesn't necessarily involve physical touch, but it can also lead to physical touch, right? Because look, if you
I hope so.
Huh? Was that?
I hope so.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying, right? Because if you feel so disconnected from each other, right? I mean, obviously, physical touch is not always good, and it's not always bad. But if you have the right combination of everything, you know, from all the different love languages, and like you said, if you feel very full, then it means so much more to have that kind of physical touch, right? But obviously, you have to have it on both sides, right? Like for me, hey, you know, don't misconstrue this, but physical touch, hey, that's an important thing for me, right? It's not always important for the other individual, right? Because for me, it's like, you know, I like to feel connected. I like to feel like this bond, and without that bond, like, come on, man, like, what are we doing in this marriage if you don't, right? And so, I'm not saying that she doesn't feel either, but there's a certain threshold for both, right? And I think, dude, it's not really a marriage if you're not constantly like just walking by, tapping them on the butt and just kind of giving them a you know, a boob grab or whatever, you know, like that's the kind of stuff that is like, hey, yeah, I'm showing you, this is like, you can go around so many different ways, right? This could be like my affirmation that, hey, I appreciate you for being physically there, right? You know what I mean? And that kind of, it's like all circular, you know what I mean?
No, I 100% understand, because like, if you're not molesting your spouse, then what are you doing, right? Like,
it's like, oh, I don't want to. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah, but what's funny is that, like, and this is why it's really good to talk about the love language, is that like, physical touch is not one on the high scale for me as a love language. I'm just not used to having physical touch, and I'm completely okay with it. Although I do like it, of course, right? But it's not something that like emotionally, because okay, so all the love languages that we're talking about today, they all go towards one thing, are keeping like our emotions at the optimal like level, you know, like getting our emotion cup filled, right? And physical touch, I know for a fact that is one of the love languages that Sophia really strongly like needs more than I do. So here lies the problem. She likes physical touch a lot, you know, and I don't. I'm just not used to it, and so it's really hard for me to grasp. Like, you know, she's come home from work, and I'm sure she would appreciate if I just come up to her and just like, hey, how's your day, baby? You know, give her a kiss, a hug, just to do that. But I'm innately, I'm just not that type of person, you know, and that's the struggle, because like, if she's not getting her needs with that part of the to fill her cup emotionally with that, and I'm not giving it to her, then that there can be a problem, you know. I'm not saying that we are physical in other ways, and we get that with each other, which is great. But I know that on a daily basis, she probably like emotionally requires like just something like just a shoulder rub, or like just grabbing her hand or smacking her butt and whatever it is, right? And I don't do it as much as she would do it to me, but she's probably expecting or wanting, really. But then again, just like in most relationships and most marriages, no one does what they want, really.
Exactly. You can't. It's like,
yeah.
Hey, can I go and do like a little tap, or do you want a hug? Like, I mean, you can probably read and tell, but at the same time, it's like, okay, maybe I read it wrong, and maybe she just didn't want me to be around, or whatever,
Yeah, exactly. Or like, even if you do ask first, like, and just say like, hey, baby, like, can I just give you a big hug, And then she might respond with like, why do you have to ask? Why do you have to ask me? You should just know that I want it,
Yeah.
Which is like, I can see happening too. So it's a really kind of like a double-edged sword. But you know what? At the end of the day, like if we contemplate too much, and I'm an overthinker, I'll get stuck in this limbo and I won't do it. I end up not doing it, and then who loses out? The person that really needs the love language will lose out if they're not getting it, right? And so I think it's a good way to conclude all of this, that like everything that we talked about, words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch, those are all to fill our emotional cups. And we have to what our significant other, what their love language is. And we have to periodically, speak to them in that language. Otherwise, their emotional cup will be depleted more and more, and likewise, vice versa, So as much as we are talking about it and being mindful about it, we don't know if they are even being mindful or acknowledging this. But it doesn't matter. I think for us as guys, like, we know this, we should, and we're like refreshing ourselves with this, we should 100% work on those areas where we know that this is the love language that our wives speak. Yep. We should probably focus and just take the initiative and do it,
It's kind of funny. I just thought of an analogy. It's kind of like, in an car audio system, right? There's an equalizer.
Yeah.
You kind of have to adjust as you kind of go, depending on the kind of music that's playing, right? To get the most optimum sound that you're looking for, right? And it's actually kind of makes sense, right? Because there's obviously going to be a low end, a mid, and then a high end, right? And so this is going to be a fine-tuning type of exercise, if you will, but it's an exercise in life, right? With being married and everything like that. And I think those are definitely great points, because if you're not fine-tuning your own cup, and you're not fine-tuning your wife's cup, or at least what you perceive to be where she's at emotionally with all of these love languages, you're never going to be in sync, right? And it's a constant thing that you're going to have to work on. There's no doubt about it, right? And nothing really easy comes from just being lazy, right? Obviously. So obviously it's definitely something that you're going to have to work on. And I mean, dude, to be honest, I feel so much better now talking about this, because there's a lot of things that I was actually really thinking about, and these love languages and kind of helped me figure out what was kind of missing, right? For me, at least. So I definitely appreciate that. And I hope that everyone else that's listening really finds value in talking about this, right? Because this is not something that you talk about every day. It's not something that especially guys talk about openly, because, hey, we're guys and we kind of think like, nah, that's kind of girly, dude. But you think it, sometimes you show it, but you never discuss it, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is actually really good.
We're trying to break that wall down here by having these podcasts first off, right? And yeah, I mean, I'm getting a lot out of this conversation too. Some areas where I know I'm lacking that I need to focus on too, and that's what's up, I'm really curious to see everyone else's. What are their love languages that resonates the most with them, and and what are the perceptions of the love languages that we talked about. Like, are you more receptive towards, an act of service, or receiving gifts, or or like physical touch, right? Because everyone speaks a different language, and that's okay to, and that's why we're talking about this. It's okay that, like, it's not about like getting grades. Like, you can't just like have the language of all of them and be like, I love all of them, I speak all of them, but it's just important to remember that the ones that you do resonate with, or that you do have and speak, it's good to have those conversations with the person that you love.
Yep, 100%. Like, this is awesome. I am so happy you brought this up. It helped me a lot, and I hope it helped everyone else out too. Leave comments or questions that you have below, and you know what? It's Friday. Have a good weekend, and until next time, peace out.
Bye, everyone.
Later.